When scientists deciphered the human genome, they thought they had unlocked the key to the secret of life. But what if there's more encoded in those genetic codes than just eye color or susceptibility to disease? What if our DNA contains the imprint of the soul itself? As I began to dig deeper into the structure of the soul, I realized one thing: that the body and the soul are not two separate entities, as we were taught, but two layers of a single reality. The body is only a projection of the deeper structures of consciousness, and DNA, the genetic information, is not just a carrier of biological traits, but a kind of mirror of our spiritual evolution. In one meditation I realized that our genetic makeup is not random. That what we call heredity is not just the transmission of physical traits, but also the carrying of certain moral and spiritual information. Thus, not only what we inherited from our parents, but also what we ourselves once sowed in past incarnations, in deeper levels of karma, can manifest in our genetic code. Genetics, in my opinion, is an imprint of our inner harmony or corruption. When a person lives for a long time in hatred, condemnation, desire for power or fame, this condition can imprint not only on his energy field, but also on his DNA itself, and this will then affect not only his body, but also the bodies of his descendants. I have begun to notice how in families where certain destructive emotions are passed on, such as pride, jealousy, contempt, but also false sacrifice or spiritual pride, the same illnesses, similar life destinies, the same types of suffering appear. These are all signals that DNA is not just a biological code, but a spiritual chronicle. It was then that I understood that healing of the body begins with healing of the soul. That if we want to change the genetic curse, we have to change the way we think, open our hearts and learn to love even where we used to hate. Only then will the code begin to change our own, and by extension, our children's. That's why in this episode, we explore together whether it's possible that our souls are really writing themselves into our genes. And if there is a way to influence even the deepest structure of our bodies through spiritual growth. I used to believe that genetics was a purely material matter. Scientists tell us that in our DNA is stored the blueprint for our bodies, what we will look like, what health we will have, even what propensity for disease we carry. But as I began to go deeper down the spiritual path, I began to ask myself a different question. What if it's not just the body that gets written into the DNA? What if something of our soul is also encoded in our genes? Over time, I began to feel that the genetic code is not an immutable thing. That it is not only the result of heredity, but also a reflection of our inner world. Our thoughts, emotions, intentions, it's all energy. And the energy that we carry within us, in my experience, can also operate on a physical level down to the very cells themselves. I have noticed that people who live in hatred, pride or inner despair for a long time often have not only health problems but also children who carry similar burdens. Not just mentally, but physically as well. And vice versa. When one works on oneself, learns humble love, forgives, changes one's approach to life, sometimes things begin to happen that science cannot explain. Diseases recede, genetic assumptions seem to lose their power. I've come to call it spiritual DNA rewriting, not in the sense that we are changing the actual chemical structure of the genes, but in the sense that we are changing the fine-grained field that affects how our genetics manifest. That we can refine or even dissolve the karmic programs that have written themselves into our blood. Because I think genetics also respond to love, to a state of oneness with the divine order. When a person lives in accordance with the highest principles, with faith, gratitude, humility and the ability to love even in pain, he rewrites not only his future but also his past. It heals family lines that go far back into the past. And in doing so, the structure of the body is truly changed. Not always immediately, not always visibly, but legally. Today, I no longer believe that genetics is our destiny. I believe that genetics is a mirror of our soul, and that it is through spiritual growth that we can transform this mirror. It may sound unlikely, but I have experienced it. And today I speak of it not only as a belief, but as a profound personal experience. And so, if we feel we are bound by genetic destiny, disease or the weight of family patterns, that is not the final verdict. It's just a challenge, a call to start working on ourselves, to cleanse our thoughts, our hearts and our relationships. To move closer to love, which is not an emotion, but a state of connection to something higher, timeless. Every prayer, every sincere forgiveness, every act of true love, All of these change not only our consciousness but also our body. And it changes the world around us. Genes are not stone. They are like clay, and we are the ones who imprint the shape of our souls on it. Thank you for being with me. If this topic has resonated with you, I'd be happy to take you on another journey in this series. And remember, real change doesn't start in the world, it starts deep within us.